If anybody that's watching this wants to say, well, I don't think what she is saying is true and that's not how it works, or I want to challenge that, you can come directly to me and I will pull the receipts for her to show her that the $90,000 that she's talking about is every bit accurate. And I will pull the receipts and I will show you. I will personally show you the receipts of every single thing she's talking about, from chemo treatments to medication to outside of network to doctors that are multiple doctors to oncologists to everything. Like I will show you what she's talking about.
80% of the people that have health insurance file for bankruptcy due to medical expenses.
Oh, wow.
Because there's always going to be a healthcare gap. There's going to be a gap, right? Because healthcare, if you have a high deductible insurance plan, right, you still have to meet the deductible. You have co-insurance. You have co-payments. You will protect your cell phone with cell phone insurance, but not protect your life. Make it make sense, right? It just can't happen. So your first advisor is your spiritual advisor. Okay, we have to have someone directing us spiritually. So that's your pastor. We also should have a legal advisor. Okay, so someone who's directing us on any legal matters, right? We all should have a tax advisor.
The Magnificent Six. I like it. I like it. The Magnificent Six.
Yes, you need them all.
You don't understand the team that you have to have around you to sustain what it is that you build. When it comes to money, fear often outweighs facts. Insurance, retirement planning, financial literacy, too many of us avoid these conversations until it's too late. My guest, Lynn Odrick, has lived this reality. With decades of experience managing billions in retirement assets, she went from leading major financial institutes to finding her own firm, Wisdom, Wealth, and Prosperity, Inc. With this mission, she plans to empower families through financial education. But her expertise isn't just professional, it's deeply rooted in personal experience. A health scare and financial struggles of her own forced her to learn firsthand how preparation changes everything. Today, we're going to break down why people fear insurance agents, how to shift that fear into confidence, and what questions you must ask when preparing for your family's financial future. Because when the what if happens, you'll wish you had. I want to welcome my guest, Lynn. How are you doing?
Hello, Jason. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. I know that you came through a conduit of Alicia, and I'm grateful that she put us in touch. I know that we have had some great conversations already, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you. I think this is going to be very fruitful, and I believe that this is going to hopefully help shift the mindset, perspective, and the way that people view getting resources to build their family's foundation and start having these conversations. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. So as I like to say, I like to just dive right in it. So I want to start off by talking about how and why, I guess, unexpected crises exposes financial unpreparedness versus just conversations should be exposing that through having these conversations with people. And I get it. We've talked through this a lot where it's not often that they don't want to, maybe they just don't have the tools, but you've seen family lose everything after medical crisis, and you've also walked through your own financial struggles. So that's actually where I want to start. What was your personal what if moment that changed everything for you?
Yes, so thank you for that question. First thing I always say is if we know better, we will do better. And it's just about having information. My personal journey started in 2018. So between 2018 and 2019, within a year and a half, I had three major surgeries, two on my neck, front and back. And then my mother and I were involved in a very horrific car accident. And I know that it was by the grace of God that we made it out of the car on that night, the drunk driver. And I wanted a better quality of life. So I began to pray to God and ask God, what is it that I need to do in order to have a better quality of life? And that meant not just in my personal career journey, but even just in life in general and financially. And as a result of being off work within that year and a half, and having to utilize what financial resources I had without a backup plan really brought to my mind, my mindset that, okay, something has to be different and you have to do things differently. And so while I was managing, as you said in your monologue, billions of dollars in retirement assets, I wasn't properly managing my own personal finances. And that generally is what happens with people in financial services. We're busy about the day managing things for other people, but not taking care of ourselves. And I realized in that moment that I had not been taking care of myself, and I had not been setting myself and my family up for the proper financial foundation as a result of just not paying attention.
And what do you think was the thing that stopped you from having that conversation with your family, or that conversation just being had within your family at that time before that even accident happened? Because was it something that you guys just didn't talk about, or did you just not know how to talk about? Because I do know, like, especially back in the 90s, I mean, even today, but even more then, it was just a very taboo thing to talk about.
Exactly. What I realized, and I'm from the generation, I'm a Gen X, and so I'm from the generation right behind the baby boomers that just did not have the conversations. Our parents didn't have the conversations with their parents, and as a result of that, we just did not know. And because we don't talk about those things, money, number one, and death being the second thing. I knew there were some things I should have been doing, but because there was never a conversation about how to properly do it, it was more about you make money to take care of your bills. You're not making money to save. You're making
Sure.
money to get through each day. And then that presents a scarcity mindset, right? A lack of, because now we're just in the mode of living paycheck to paycheck. So
Sure.
that was the first thing. The second thing I realized, and I know we'll get into this conversation, is when I shifted my career from managing other people's money to now being able to empower families financially, I then began to have the conversation with my mother. I had someone ask me yesterday, I did a segment for women, and they said, when did you start actually paying attention to your money? Literally 10 years ago. But at this point, I'm thinking about retirement. So now
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my money. But about 10 years ago, I sat down with my mother to have the conversation and realized that if anything happens to her, not only was it going to affect her financially, but it was going to devastate me financially. It was really going to have an impact on me. Why? Because I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings. So if something happens to my mother, I financially have to be able to take care of her. And
Sure.
at that time, I was not in the position to do so. And that prompted me to begin to have the conversations with my mother, with my adult son, who has a family, three kids. So we have to be able to now change the narrative. It is not taboo to talk about money any longer. There is not a lack or scarcity of money. We have to stop thinking that we're less than and we have less than. If we begin to empower ourselves with the knowledge, we will better be able to set ourselves up.
So, and I agree with you 1,000%. And I think that, which goes parallel with taboo of talking about money, often taboo in talking about death. And especially in the generation that we're in now, and even before that, and even in our culture, for some reason, we believe that death is a is a is a bad thing. And I had this conversation actually with a friend last night, and we were talking about, and where was I? I had it with him, and he had brought up, which he's actually Middle Eastern. And so, but we were still talking about Jesus. And we were just talking about, and I'm going to paraphrase this scripture because it just came to me now. And I just had it last night. I just had the conversation with him last night where we were talking about why death isn't a bad thing for specifically for believers who believe, because to be absent of the body is to be in the presence of Christ. And I do believe that even when we talk about death, like I said in my other, like one of the other guests, like 10 out of 10 people die. Everybody dies. And I don't understand why the preparations that we make for all of the other things in our life, we don't make these preparations. But as, you know, we do shift into talking about, you know, agents and just information and getting the knowledge of how to receive information. I think that that is something that I want the people watching this episode to understand: how to receive information, how to process the information, and how to demystify the perceptions that we have of agents. Because at the end of the day, the same way that, and it is a mindset thing, the same way you go to a restaurant, you're expecting the server to do their job. And in that moment, you're not caring about, you know, what the server actually is going through that day. You're just wanting to make sure that they are doing their job to serve you the way that you need to be served. The same way that there's so much information out there, I think that we oftentimes bring our own biases and our own fears into the conversation, where we so much focus on putting that onto the agent that we don't even give ourselves the ability to receive the information that they have, because the information is information, but the information applied is actual wisdom. And we don't ever get a chance to apply the information because we don't often know what information that we should be getting and how to assess that information properly through the correct filter. Because we all get information, we just process it through our own filters. And I guess that's the first thing, you know, talking about just the filters. So as an agent going into households, and just so you guys are listening, I want you guys to get a pencil and paper and write these things down, because I have the ability to sit with a practitioner and answer the questions that I know that either you guys don't know to ask or don't know how to ask, but she's going to give you the information that you need to make better decisions and to make decisions, because you have to make decisions and you have to start getting this information. So as an agent, when you walk into these homes and you are meeting with these clients or prospective clients, what filters are you normally met with versus what you're coming in to talk to them about, and how you're coming in to talk to them?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is, life insurance agents are not like car sales persons, right? And so a real insurance advisor is going to sit down with the family and first off build the trust, because that's important. See, that first filter is, you're just coming to sell me something, as opposed to, I'm going to get some information that's going to help me make an informed decision about what is going to be best for me and my family right now, our current needs, but also our long-term goals. But in order to do that, you have to build the trust with the client, especially if there is no relationship there. We're in a relational business. And so if we're not building relationships, building trust and understanding is the first and foremost thing that an insurance agent has to overcome. Why? Because the walls are already up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And before you move on from that, building trust, so for you guys that are watching, yes, they are coming in to make money, because that's how they support their family. The same way you go into the restaurant, and we were talking about the server, she is coming in to serve you and bring your food out, but she is there to also make money. She is doing her job. They are doing your job. But don't allow that to block the information that you're needing to receive. So when they're trying to open up to you and they're trying to ask questions about your life, about your family, allow that to be the bridge that they need to pull specific information out to help craft a solution that is more tailored for you, because the lack of information that you give them the lack of information that they have. And then you will end up being upset that you were given the wrong information, but you wouldn't have been given the wrong information if you changed your filter of feeling like they're going to be attacking you, or they're trying to get your personal information, or they're trying to cheat you out of something. They are trying to build a rapport with you so they can best serve you. So just wanted to touch on that part of what you were talking about as far as from the agent side, and how as a consumer of how we should be approaching that type of exchange when it comes to that. So I will allow you to continue.
Thank you so much, Jason, for that. Yes, the client has to be open-minded and they have to be transparent. In order for us as insurance advisors, so we are insurance agents, but I like to say we're insurance advisors because we are going to make sure that we are advising properly. This is not just about selling a policy, right? Anyone can do that. The education happens first, but in order for us to be able to understand the needs and the goals of the family, you have to be transparent and you have to be open-minded. So you can't withhold information. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to move forward, or at least provide you with the information so that you can make an informed decision when you're ready, because sometimes you're not always ready. It's a lot of information to gather when you are talking about how do I protect myself now and protect my family later. What are the needs and goals of the family? You have to understand your own personal financial journey and your own personal financial situation, where you're at now, and how to overcome those things by understanding basic financial concepts. So I come from an educational perspective, so that I'm educating the client first. Because most people say, I need insurance, but they'll say, I just need a quote for $100,000. Is $100,000 going to protect you and your assets over the long term? And not just in death, because life insurance is not something that we have to die to use. And so we have to make sure that we're properly protecting everything that you care about. That's what I help you to do. Protect the things that you care about the most, but it's going to require you to be transparent and provide the information as I'm asking the questions.
Sure. And I think that is good information. And also, fear fades when people have the right tools. Families feel defensive because they don't have the tools to actually ask for what it is they need. And I think that most of the time, like you said, when they're asking for, well, how much is a $100,000 policy? I want to give you guys, and we can touch on this, I want to give you guys 3 tools or 3 questions, 3 tools to think about when you are actually asking about a policy. Because I know that you are thinking about the now versus the later. And when you are thinking about a policy, here are 3 things that you can ask an agent and give them this information to allow them to start to understand where your thinking is at. So the first thing is having a comprehensive understanding of where you're at financially. They can't figure that out for you. That's not their job to figure that out for you. That is your job to do before you meet with them. That's like going to, once again, to a restaurant, and when they say, so do you guys know what you want today? And yes, they're going to say, well, here are our specials, but what did you have in mind, or what were you looking to eat? And if you say, well, whatever you think is good, I just want to go with that. And then they bring you out something and then you have an allergic reaction, or the food isn't good, then you're upset with them. That's the same way of understanding. Like, you went to that restaurant with something in mind of what you were looking to eat, whether you looked it up online. Have an understanding of your basic financial situation beforehand. The second thing is understand that life insurance shouldn't just be something that is geared for one specific instance of, such as death. Because like she said, there are other benefits that you can use life insurance for, and you have to understand what you don't have in place now that you're going to need when it comes to having the care of being able to take care of either yourself, your family, your spouse, your kids, if you're unable to work. Like, how have you thought about what that looks like? What is your 6-month runway that you need to cover and facilitate you from a financial standpoint of being able to take care of your family and the needs if you are in a position where you're unable to work? And then the third thing is And a lot of people don't talk about this. And I think that even insurance agents going in with this perspective of how do you plan to sustain your mental, emotional, and physical state during a time of hardship, whether if that's yours, your family's, your parents, like how do you plan to financially sustain that? Therapy, just the time to get away, but having the resources to put things in place to be able to give you that time to get away. Like these are all of these things are three things that when you're talking to the agent, you should ask them. I'm looking to make sure that I have at least 6 months of financial runway in the event something happens to me, my wife, or my child, and we're unable to meet the financial standards that we need. The second thing is I'm very big on making sure that my mental, emotional, and spiritual stays intact for my family. So if that means that we need therapy and we have to pay out of pocket costs because my insurance doesn't pay for it, or if I have to bring in a babysitter or a nanny, or I need to pay for a relative to come and help, like these are the things that I need to make sure that my policy can facilitate when we're talking through what's going to be the best use case for a policy for me. And then giving them that information allows them to have more information to then make a better professional and educated decision on what is going to work for you.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about this in context, right? Let's break it down. We're talking about what are the financial needs of the family. Just as we go to the doctor every single year to get a health checkup, we need to be checking up on our finances as well. Why? Because everything that we do requires us to have money. And we have goals. We have personal goals that we set, but we have to attach the financial goal to that. There is a monetary component to every personal goal that we have because everything that we do requires us to have money. That's why we talk about the financials. We have to determine what is the specific needs for the family and then break that down. And then we have to have the backup plan. Why the backup plan? Because there's going to be a gap in the healthcare coverage. Healthcare doesn't cover everything. And so right now, statistics are about in 2025, there's about a $12,000 gap of out-of-pocket expenses that someone will have as a result of having a major medical crisis, a health crisis that's going to affect the family financially. So we have to be prepared for that, right? And then the next thing is that our biggest asset is our ability to earn money. So as you said, what happens when I can't go out and make a living for myself and my family? What happens to my financial obligations? What happens to the things that I care about the most? My income, my family, my home, my business, and my health. We have to be considering those things as we're planning, right? And so here's some things that both the agent and the client can do together as they are talking these things through, right? What is the ultimate goal? We have to think beyond having a policy. We have to think beyond, it's just for me in debt. Focus on how it's going to impact my family later on. Is it for generational wealth transfer and legacy? Am I looking to have additional benefits, right? Am I looking to have what's called an accelerated death benefit, a living benefit, that if I'm diagnosed with a terminal illness, a critical illness, or chronic illness, I can utilize my policy now while I'm still alive. That's why it's called life insurance, because it is there for us to use while we're living. We don't have to pass away. There is going to be money needed. Why? Because healthcare is not going to pay your mortgage. It's not going to cover the college expenses. There's all of these things that we have to make sure that we are prepared for in life and in death, right? Because if you die too soon, it is there. So consider your family structure. Consider the financial gaps that may happen. When we do your financial analysis, we are identifying any gaps in your plan so we can help you to bridge the gap. And more times than not, it happens with the life insurance because life insurance has so many other components. If it has a cash value to it, now you can actually utilize it, right? For retirement planning, for college planning, for starting a business. That is income, tax-free income, because it has tax protection. It has favorable tax treatment. So think about that. Look at short-term protection as well as long-term protection. Prioritize what's important. If something happens to you and you have minor children that you want to help go to college, let's structure the plan to do that. Most people are underinsured. And that's where I come in as the insurance advisor, is letting you know this is really how much coverage you need. And we're looking at your household finances. We're looking at your debt. We're looking at your income. If there are two incomes, right, both spouses will need to have some supplement if there's an income that is affected. And typically when someone becomes ill in the family, the patient, the person that's ill, and the caregiver both have incomes that are affected. So now you need to account for that.
So, what do you think the gap is between the people that you are trying to service and give this information to, and why do you feel like they're so resistant to this information? And why, from an agent speaking to a consumer, if you can explain to them why they don't need to have that resistance when advisors and agents are trying to give them the information. Can you maybe just kind of speak to that a little bit so they can start to understand that resistance of it's not that you guys are being pushy and you're trying to just follow up with it, like that you actually genuinely care about, because you've seen their situation and how it unfolds. And just because they haven't seen it doesn't mean that you haven't seen it. And that's why, you understand. And maybe you can also speak on a situation where you've had a conversation and they were resistance, and then this was the outcome based upon them not receiving that information.
So, the communication and communicating the value of having the plan and the strategy of how it's going to help the family based on our conversation. But most people are resistant because they don't understand how it works. Again, when we think about insurance prior, it was just for the death benefit. So they just think that when I die, my family's going to get this, right? Or some families are looking at just having enough to cover burial expenses. They're not thinking the legacy. They're not thinking the generational wealth transfer. So it's a lack of the knowledge, as we say, right? So they don't understand because they don't know. And then they fear that they can't afford it. And they think of it as another bill. And it is not another bill. I tell clients every day, this is protection on your life. You will protect your cell phone with cell phone insurance, but not protect your life. Make it make sense, right? It just can't happen. Insurance companies are in the protection business, and we all have an expiration date. And whether that's the auto insurance, the homeowner's insurance, the car insurance are in the protection business. We know with our life, we all have an expiration date. We just don't know the day or time. We don't know the hour that we're going to be called from this life that we're living now. But we have to be prepared because we don't want our families to be in a position where they can't stay in the home. Our kids now can't go to college, right? We have to be able to set them up with the things that they're going to need over the long term. So lack of information, lack of understanding, and thinking that they do not have enough money to cover it. And there is a plan out there for everyone. Everyone needs to have the protection. And that's where I come from, right? The care, the position of care. Because now, once I've given you the information and you don't do anything with it and something happens, believe you me, from a integrity standpoint, from character, it affects me as well. Because I know that I may have spoken to you, and not that I'm pushing you or I didn't push you, but I didn't continue to follow up and communicate. And I want to share this story because it breaks my heart. I have two stories. In my 10-year career on this side of financial services, a 30-plus year in retirement planning. My first one was meeting with a husband. I like to meet with spouses together. It is important that you and your spouse or significant other make the decision together and that you hear the information together. So back in 2021, I was working with a corrections officer, a little bit older than his wife by maybe 15 years. They had 4 kids under the age of 18. The husband continued to meet with me throughout the process. He wanted to move forward, but each time I was able to meet with him, his wife was unavailable due to her work schedule. Fast forward 2 months later, the corrections officer that introduced me to this gentleman sends me a text and says, I think this guy passed away. I'm in a meeting. I'm like, I'll call you as soon as I'm done. Because now my heart drops. I'm like, please don't let that be so. The wife did not want to move forward and meet with me. Her thing was, we're going to refinance the home. Has no bearing on you getting life insurance, 2 separate things. I said, I just need to be able to speak with her so that I can help her to understand why this is important. You are the main income earner in the household. You are about 15 years older. You have minor children. If something happens to you, is she going to be okay? How much of your income will she need if there's a loss of income? So speak with the agent. He calls the wife. Yes, he passed away. They had a $1,000 accidental death policy. They did not have life insurance. He passed away in his sleep. That accidental death policy would not cover any final expenses. They had to do a GoFundMe. Broke my heart because I was not able to ever talk to her. My second happened last year. I had a HR director who retired early, wanted to focus on her business, but a young woman. So it's like I left my job. I wanted to focus on my business. She and I had been talking. Her business caused her to have to travel, so which affected our schedules. Every time we were able to meet, it's like, okay, I have to travel. I can't meet with you. Getting off the plane from my personal travel last year, my friend texts me and tells me this lady has passed away. We never put the plan in place because we never got back together. 2 weeks before I got that text message, I wrote her name down and I said, I have to call her. And I never made it around to calling her. And she passed away. And I don't know if the family ever put anything in place because I never met her spouse either. So when it comes to what I do, it is more about, please let me help you to find the plan that is going to best fit the needs for you and your clients. We work with many different companies. We're not captive to any one company. Everyone's financial situation is different. They can't have the same plan. So we have to be able to help. Let us help you and find and design the plan that's going to be best for you and your family, regardless of your financial situation.
So, what would you say when it comes to families trying to balance savings, insurance, and debt without feeling stretched too thin?
We look at your overall financial picture. We look at the household cash flow. We look at what's coming in, what's going out. Is there any discretionary income that we can work with? And if there isn't, there are all types of life insurance policies out there that people can have. That's going to provide them with the accelerated death benefit for the critical, chronic, and terminal illness, but not financially be a strain on them. There is something out there for everyone. And so allow me to do the financial analysis, gather the information, and see how I can best help you and your family. That's always my plea.
Yeah. So now, if we move it from which you are a different type of advisor and agent, obviously, and not everybody's going to have the opportunity to deal specifically with you. And, God willing, they will see this and go directly to you. That is the plan. But oftentimes it takes us to experience a contrast of something before we understand, what very few people understand the good without understanding the bad. Some people just understand the good and they're like, no, I get this is the good. What are some of the red flags to look for in other agents that aren't, or advisors that do not present themselves like you, or what are some of the things that they lead with that are red flags where you should steer clear or ask different type of questions?
Well, first of all, if they're not sitting down with you and explaining to you how insurance works, and they're just saying, oh, you just want a quote? Okay, I can give you that. Real insurance agents, advisors that really care about the client are not thinking about their commission. They're thinking about what's going to be the best for the client. They should be scheduling a one-on-one meeting with you to properly educate you on how insurance works, the functions, the uses, the benefits of insurance, and then talking to you about your financial picture, right? How much debt do you have? How much income do you earn on an annual basis, and how long are you looking to work? Because now we have to factor that in as well. It's about income protection, right? Do you have a mortgage that needs to be paid off? And are you looking to cover any future educational expenses for your kids? We call it the DIME method, DIME, your debt, your income, your mortgage, and education, because that's going to determine how much insurance coverage you will really need. And with that being said, now it's allowing you to really tell us what your needs are, as opposed to me coming and saying, okay, well, you want about 100,000 or 50,000 just to cover burial. What about the legacy planning? What about the strategy to build generational wealth and pass that inheritance on to your kids? right? Or to your family so that they can continue to live the same lifestyle. So a red flag is someone just saying, okay, I'll run some quotes for you without ever explaining or finding out what your true needs are and what your goals are. That's a huge red flag. If they are unable to explain to you why you need this, why is it going to be best for your family? For me, that's the immediate red flag. We should not be getting to, here's the quote, this is how much it's going to cost you. No, that should not happen. That should not be the first thing that happens.
And thank you. And that was good. And when it comes to like the two situations that you just named where, yes, you were the one that was reaching out and trying to get them set up. Speaking from your personal perspective, if you had to communicate to the viewers that are watching when other agents are doing this, can you give them the narrative of where you're coming at from a emotional, mental, and spiritual place of wanting to help them versus them thinking that you're just trying to sell them, catch them up, sell them?
Mm-hmm. Because life insurance is more than just the death benefit. It's a living strategy. It's a strategy for living. It's a strategy for long-term planning. Insurance companies are financial institutions and they have financial products. And most people miss that because they just don't understand how insurance works. And there's 4 places where people put money, but the 4th place is insurance, and people miss that. They'll put money in the bank, they put money in investments, and they put money in real estate. They miss the insurance as a financial strategy. And so it's a living strategy for now. And then when we're talking about legacy, that preservation, so the building of the wealth, the protecting of the wealth, and the preservation of the wealth is important. So you build upon what you have, right? Because some people don't think they have enough and they don't know where to start and they think that they can't. So they don't. So if you understand that you can start where you are and build upon that, but also make sure that the proper protection is in place, because that is the foundation of everything that we do in basic financial planning, is having the protection. And then the preservation, so making sure that you do not outlive what you have. So that is so important. So that proper planning is going to ensure the wealth transfer, the values that you want to be able to leave within your legacy, right? It's not just about wealth, it's about legacy planning and strategy.
Sure. And what would you say to a listener who feels it's too late to start?
It's never too late to start. I always say that it's getting started is the problem. Procrastination is probably one of the biggest enemies that we have. And the more we procrastinate, the longer it's going to take us to reach those financial goals, even within the life insurance. And so don't procrastinate, right? You start where you are and then you build upon that. And we can help to build that strategy and plan for you.
Sure. So some takeaways from just this part I want everybody to take away with are a few things. A, go back and understand the proper mental framework you need to have in order to ask the right questions. There are things you can do ahead of time to pre-plan to be able to meet with an advisor to ask the correct questions. And 3, they can't help you if you're not willing to help yourself. And no matter how much you think that you don't need this is you. And we talked about this in the first episode. This is you building the ark before the rain actually comes. And if you are not taking heed to the words and messaging that you're getting to build the ark, when that rain does come, you can never say you didn't know. And the boogeyman that you think is the insurance agent or advisor is a fear and scarcity that we have with ourselves. They are not the boogeyman. They are just advisors to advise you on what you should be doing from their professional experience. So we have to stop looking at them as the boogeyman, and we have to stop looking at practitioners in this space, whether they are agents, financial planners, wealth advisors. Like, we have to stop looking at them like they're the boogeyman, because we are only hurting ourselves. We're not hurting them. We're hurting ourselves, because I can tell you that there are people that understand the information because they've taken the time to go through everything that we're talking about and put themselves on policies and then build up from there. Because the thing is, you can build up. You don't have to just jump out the window right away. You have the ability to build up. But I always believe that, like she said, most of us don't have enough, but I can tell you this, having a little bit is more than a fish fry. Having a little bit is more than a GoFundMe. Because we talk about this with another episode when it comes to funeral director with Sandra. And I can tell you from personal experience that a GoFundMe and a fish fry is not burying nobody. It's not burying anybody. And the money that you were spending on that fish fry and on that GoFundMe, like right there, that's money that you could be putting towards a policy. Mm-hmm. Because the same energy and effort that you have to get to corralling people, like you could be working in making an extra $100 to $200 a month to put towards a policy. And yes, if you have anyone who owns an iPhone, there's no reason why you should not have an insurance policy. Like if you own an iPhone, you should have an insurance policy. If you own a laptop, you should have an insurance policy. Like these are financial decisions that you're making, that you are placing those things over. You value those things more than your legacy, your future, and your life. Like you just do. So
I will tell you, Jason, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have a mentor, and when he would meet with couples, because sometimes couples are not always on the same page, and it's just for the lack of understanding. And he would ask the husband, do you love your wife and kids? Do you love your wife and kids? Why would you leave them with nothing? You know, one of the questions that I get sometimes is, people want clarity. And so they say, talk to me like you talk to a family member. So my friends laugh at me, right? Because I say to my family and friends, if they're not covered or properly covered, I say you're out here butt naked with nothing.
That is the truth.
Let's just get to the real. You're out here butt naked with nothing. You have to have something in place. And as you were saying, right, talking to those insurance agents and advisors, seek clarity. So make sure that you fully understand. Your meeting with those individuals should at least be 2 to 3 meetings at the minimum. Sometimes it may take longer to put the right plans in place, but there should be multiple meetings. Your first meeting is not about this is how much it's going to cost you. Right?
Sure.
So be sure. So in your planning and as you are vetting, and vet your insurance agents, find out about them. Important. So that
That's
know
good.
that they're going to do the best thing for you. I've had clients that say, well, do you have someone that I can talk to?
I was just about to say that. I was going to say, ask for some references. Ask for some references,
right? Absolutely, right? Because you're not just buying a policy, you're building a plan.
Yeah.
And because you're building that plan, that preparation is that relationship. It's not the transaction. It's the relationship, right? So
That's awesome. So just to switch gears really quick before we land this plane, can you tell us a little bit more about wisdom, wealth, and prosperity?
Yes. So in my journey, what I realized in corporate America is that I was always subject to the corporate rules, right? My retirement plans were governed by a retirement committee, a board of trustees, and I've worked in every area of retirement planning. My last career was in plan administration, where I was managing 401k for 5 retirement plans for a health plan company. And they had what's called an automatic enrollment. So those of you that are out there that have automatic enrollments into your 401ks, your 403b plans. And what I found in talking to employees is that they didn't understand how those plans work. Now, my role was to make sure that they got enrolled, make sure that their contributions were being done, ensuring that the employer did the matching contributions, right? And any other changes that they would have. However, I realized that most of my young employees, especially, didn't understand how the plan works. And when you're starting your career, you're just like, I need my 3% of my income. I don't need that to go into a retirement plan. I'm 25, 30 years old. I'm not even thinking about retirement right now. So I begin to realize that education was so much more important. And so my focus became, how do I educate, giving them the wisdom so that they can build the wealth and prosper with what they have. So that's where wisdom, wealth, and prosperity came from. Standing on the word of God and what God says about money and how we should view money, right? Because money is not the root to all evil, right? It is not that. And we are a prosperous nation, a prosperous. The Bible says that we should leave an inheritance for our children's children. And so I wanted to be able to educate individuals and families and be able to do that outside of the guise of having all of these rules and regulations, and to be able to properly educate. And so that's where that came from. And I do strongly believe that the best education is the one that we give ourselves. If we seek to get the knowledge, we will have that, right? Because the people will perish for lack of knowledge, says the word of God. And so we want to be able to make sure that we can prosper as a people.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, because I believe that it is important to have advocates. We need to continue to multiply advocates like yourself to be able to bring information into these households, into these people, to give direction and guidance when it comes to financial literacy, because it doesn't all have to come from one place, because everybody digests things just differently. So thank you for that. So also too, before we land, sorry, you were going to say something?
So I believe that everyone should have 6 advisors. And this is what I share with clients and anyone that I'm working with. So your first advisor is your spiritual advisor. Okay, we have to have someone directing us spiritually. So that's your pastor, someone trusted in ministry that you trust, that you can share information with and get the proper guidance. We also should have a legal advisor. Okay, so someone who's directing us on any legal matters, right? Whether that is in business, in personal, especially when it comes to our family trust, things like that, putting estate plans into place. We all should have a tax advisor. So a CPA, someone who's directing us on our taxes, both in business and personal. A real estate advisor, someone who's going to help you with your real estate, personal real estate or investments. You also need to have a financial advisor, right? Because there are things outside of the scope of an insurance advisor that the financial advisor will do in terms of investing, right? And helping you to properly plan among different diversification categories, important. And then, of course, your insurance advisor, right? Now, some of those are all in financial services, right? The CPA, the financial advisor and insurance advisor, but we all have our niche and we have the area in which we specialize in. So we work together. And so I work with all of your advisors to ensure that everything that you are looking to accomplish is done in all of those areas.
The Magnificent Six. I like it. The Magnificent Six.
Yes. You need them all.
That's great. And it's, as you were talking through all of those, I have my Magnificent Six. But I mean, but I was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And I was intentional. And that's why I tell people often, like, when you're building wealth, you don't understand the team that you have to have around you to sustain what it is that you built. And, as you continue to layer things on and grow things on, those, the FAs, the tax attorneys, you have patent attorneys, you have real estate attorneys, you have corporate attorneys, you have, different people that you just start to build out. But the foundation that you're talking about, you cannot build without having those essential 6 as your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
That was great. So breast cancer awareness event on the 24th. Talk to us about that.
So we are just actually coming off of Life Insurance Awareness Month, right? So every health awareness month that there is, we look to be able to encourage people to support, right? And so Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I have a business partner who actually, you sat down with her, Alicia Devon, who introduced us. And so Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but not just breast cancer. We're looking to bring awareness to every cancer that there is, because we've all been affected or know someone who's been affected by some form of cancer. So in the month of October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, in the Houston, Texas area, we will be having an awareness month. And so I'm happy to announce here that you will be one of our speakers. You will share your story your personal story and how it affected you and your family, as well as your journey now and what you've been able to do. Miss Alicia Devon will be sharing her story as a young woman in her 30s being diagnosed with breast cancer and how she overcame that, but financially, how it actually really did affect her, how it affected her family and being able to just get through life, not having the proper things in place, but also having an employer who, was there to be able to bridge the gap, the financial gap. So we want to bring awareness to the financial education around cancer, the costs in which people incur, the fact that 80% of people that have health insurance file for bankruptcy as a result of being diagnosed with a major medical crisis, right? So
What was that? What was that percentage again?
80% of the people that have health insurance file for bankruptcy due to medical expenses.
Oh, wow.
Because there's always going to be a healthcare gap. There's going to be a gap, right? Because healthcare, if you have a high deductible insurance plan, right, you still have to meet the deductible. You have co-insurance. You have co-payments. Their prescriptions. There's so many stories to share about people, government employees, federal government employees, 30 years IRS employee, diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer, but also diagnosed with diabetes at the same time. Her diabetes medication through her cancer treatment, $1,000 copay.
Listen.
We got to have the backup plan.
Listen.
And that's because we come in.
Because we are about to land this plane, I'm not going to even get I'm not going to even get into it, because what you're talking about is it's 100% pie. That's 25%. Because when you tack on travel, when you tack on housing, when you tack on additional childcare, when you tack on food, I'm talking about, listen, when you want to talk about an alkaline diet, that ain't $50 grocery store shopping for alkaline diet when you're trying to reverse something. We're talking about hundreds of dollars
at least
for groceries.
$90,000 when you're talking about travel and out-of-pocket expenses. And what if you want to have treatment and work with the oncologist that is outside of your network? That's going to be an additional maybe $25,000.
Listen, if anybody that's watching this wants to say, well, I don't think what she is saying is true and that's not how it works, or I want to challenge that, I'm telling you, if anybody's watching what she's saying, I'm telling you, you can come directly to me and I will pull the receipts for her to show her that the $90,000 that she's talking about is every bit accurate. And I will pull the receipts and I will show you. I will personally show you the receipts of every single thing she's talking about, from chemo treatments to medication to outside of network to doctors that are multiple doctors to oncologists to everything, everything. I will show you what she's talking about. And the reason why I'm speaking so passionate about this is because, as I told her, as we were talking before we came on here, and I know I keep saying I'm going to land this plane, but as we were talking about this when we came on here, and you see this passion that just gets fired up in me, is because if you're watching this, you know my story and you know that this has started because of the journey of me losing my wife. And I feel her spirit in me right now. And I know that, and I was telling her, I was having a week, an emotional and mental week. But why I do this for the people watching and for you guys is because I want you guys to be more prepared than me. And this conversation and what we are having, I didn't have none of this information. I didn't have none of these conversations. None of this information I had to learn this going through it. And I had to learn it from somebody who didn't think the what if would happen. I just didn't think it would happen. Didn't think it would happen. And I'm telling you that this information that we are giving you is more valuable than you can ever understand or imagine, because don't allow the value to be actualize when you're in the situation. I'm telling you, it's valuable. So when that situation comes, you're going to think that you were able to have these type of conversations. And so, yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's the protection against the what if, because we don't know when
we don't
happen.
we don't.
And maybe it won't, but at least you're prepared in advance just in case it does.
And I'm sorry, it will. It's not maybe it won't. It will. Whether if it's at 110, if you live to 200, if you live to 500, the what if is going to happen. Mm-hmm. We just don't know when.
Yeah. So the death, yes. But then there's the other components, right? The critical illness, the chronic illness, the terminal illness. Those things may not happen, but you also need to prepare in advance for those as well, right? But
sure, absolutely.
The ultimate transition from this life is going to happen, right?
Absolutely.
That's the expiration date that we have.
Absolutely.
So breast cancer awareness event.
Yes.
We was going on. We might have to do a part 2, but October 24th, 2025 in Houston, Texas at 6 p.m. It's going to be at the Art Room Cafe and Lounge at 5223 Alameda Road, Almeda in Houston, Texas. The Art Room Cafe and Lounge on Friday, October 24th at 6 p.m. It will be myself. I also have a wealth strategist partner, Miss Helena J. Conley, who will also be coming from Southern California with me, and Mr. Jason Brown, our legacy strategist.
Awesome. So where can they find you at?
So I am on Instagram at Lynn Odrick. That's LYNNODRICK. And I'm also on Facebook at Lynn Odrick as well.
Awesome. So the fear of money, the fear of insurance often keeps us stuck. But you've heard it here today from myself and from Lynn that fear can be replaced with readiness. We just need to ask better questions, take small steps, and start the conversations with our families, which I know I said we were about to land this plane, but I did want to hear your thoughts on the legacy card deck.
Absolutely amazing. I'm so excited to be able to share with others the legacy card deck. I think it is important to initiate the conversation. And that's what we want to do. We want to dispel the myths around talking about money, talking about life insurance, talking about wealth, generational wealth, right? And legacy building. And I believe that the legacy card deck is the instrument that is needed in every family, every household, so that we start the conversation. So I'm super excited to partner with you on that as well. So thank you so much for sharing your gift, right, and your vision with us with that.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. So yes, once again, you can control what's in your hands, and you can control by taking a first step. And whatever is in your hands, it's just information like this that you take, write down, and when you meet with the practitioner, you just start going through the stuff that we talked about. But controlling your readiness is up to you. Once again, I'm your host, Jason Brown. This is the When Would Have Happens podcast, and I will see you guys next time right here. Thank you.